Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to add more methods to the Python class we created in the previous video. Methods inside a class are functions. I'm going to add a function that will be used to cycle through the images and display them within the slide. So to begin, I'll type in def. When you're creating functions, make sure they are all aligned together. You can see the indentation here. This def aligns with the other def. So I'll do a space and I'll give the method a name. I'm going to call it show underscore slides. And inside the parentheses, I'm going to pass in the self parameter, and I'll add my colon and press enter to indent the code. I'm going to create a couple of variables. You can create variables on the same line, or you can split them on different lines if you want to. So I'm going to create a variable called img underscore object. That's the first one. I'll do a comma. So you separate, if you're creating multiple variables on the same line, you separate them with a comma. The next variable name I'm going to add, I'm going to call it img underscore name, and I'm going to set that to equals to a method called next. The next function is used to return the next item in an iterator. Inside the parentheses for this next function, I'm going to pass in a variable. So I've got a variable here on line 9 called self.pictures. So I'm going to pass in that variable. So I'll do self.pictures, and the reason we add self in front of the variable names so that we can access them from within the class. So regardless of how many methods or functions we have, we can always access their values as long as we've got the self next to it. I'm going to add another variable. I'm going to call this self.picture underscore display, and I'm going to add the config function. So I'll do config, and inside that function I'm going to pass in a variable. I've got a variable called image that I previously declared, and I'm going to set the value to equals to img underscore object, which is this variable here I declared on line 15. So this picture underscore display, which is this variable here on line number 11. So I'm accessing that again here from line number 16, and I'm adding this function to it. And inside that function, I'm passing in the variable called image, and I've set that to equals to the value of this variable on line number 15 called img underscore object. The next thing I want to do is add a title that will display the title of the image within the window of the slideshow. So to do that, you type in self dot, and then we add the word title, and inside the parentheses I'll pass in the variable img underscore name. So whatever name the image has will be displayed in the window of that slideshow. So as the slideshow is playing, the particular image that is being displayed on the slideshow will have its title on the window. Next thing I want to do is to add a variable that will control the interval between the display of the images. So to do that, I'm going to add a variable. I'll do self.after. Python has a function called after, which basically allows you to specify some values that will enable something to happen after that function is called. So this after is a function. So I'm going to specify some variables inside. So I'll do self dot delay, which is a variable I declared earlier on in the code, but I've not specified the value yet. So I'll do self dot show slides. So what I'm saying here on line number 18 is that after a certain period of time, which the value is going to be set inside this variable called delay. I've not done that yet. I will do it later. Once that value is retrieved, it will then call this function, which is called show underscore slides. That's basically what line 18 is saying. I'm going to create another function that is going to be used to run the application. So to define the function, type in def, and I'm going to call the function run, and I'm going to pass in the self parameter for that function. I press enter to indent it, and to run the application you need a main loop. So I'll do self dot main loop. So this main loop function is what's going to be responsible for running the application. It's now time to set a value for my delay variable. Line number 5 here, I declared a variable called delay, which I have referenced in few places within the code. So now I need to create that variable and give it a value. So to do that, I type in delay, and I'm going to give it a value of 3,500. So this is basically in milliseconds. So what it's going to do after this millisecond has elapsed, you can see on line 18 here, I defined that. So once that time elapses, it will call this function called show underscore slides, which will display the content of the slides and start displaying the images within this interval I have set. The next thing I want to do is define the variable that will hold the images. On line number 5, inside the function, I declared a variable called image underscore files. So that's what I'm going to create now. So to do that, I'll declare the name of the variable, which I called image underscore files. And I'm going to set that to equals to a Python list. So you declare Python list just by square brackets. And there are two things you can do. You can set the full directory path for where the image is going to be located. I want to keep this simple. So what I want to do, I want to have the images in the same directory as my Python files. So in between the square brackets, I'm just going to tab and start specifying the images. So I'm just going to call my first image one. The images are going to be GIF because Tkinter works best with GIF images. So that I'll do a comma and then I'll add the next. Again, you enclose that in quotes. So it's going to be 2.gif. I'm going to add 7 images inside this Python list. So these are the names of the images that I'm going to use for the slideshow. And you can see here, I'm just using the names of the images directly because they're going to be in the same directory as the Python file. If they were located in a different directory, I would have had to put the full path to where the images are. So the next thing I want to do, inside my class, I did define a variable X and a variable Y. So now I have to create the values for those variables. So variable X, I'm going to give it a value of 100. Variable Y, I'm going to give a value of 50. Next thing I want to do is create another variable. I'm going to call this app, and I'm going to set this to equals to the name of my class, which is called app. And inside that, I'm going to pass in this image files, which is the list that contains my images, and then I pass in the variable X, the variable Y, and the variable delay. So what this app variable is doing basically is calling the function, the class called app, and is passing in all these variables. Next thing I want to do is call the function that will show the images. So to do that, I'm going to reference this variable I just created called app. I'll do app.show slides. So this variable is going to call this function called show slides and then show the slides. And to call the entire application to run, I'm going to attach the run function. I have another function called run. I'm going to attach it to this variable called app, and that will be responsible for running the application. So that's basically the code completed. So these are the images I'm going to use. You can see here they are in the same directory as my Python file, which is called slideshow. So it's able to access the images inside the slideshow. I got the images I use from this website called unsplash.com. So you can go there. If you don't want to use puppies, just type in whatever images you are looking for inside the search and it will give you. They are royalty free as long as you acknowledge where you got the images from.